Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro Moros continued his Eurasian tour. On Monday, the head of state met with Iranian Oil Minister Javad Zarif and also visited the technological park Pardis in Tehran. Members of the House Committee investigating the United States Capitol riot confirmed they have enough evidence to consider an unprecedented criminal indictment against former President Donald Trump. Russian troops are now in control of most of Severodonetsk, the epicenter of the conflict in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro Moros continued his Eurasian tour. On Monday, the head of state met with Iranian Oil Minister Javad Zarif. During the meeting, the Venezuelan head of state highlighted Iran's achievements in oil production technology, praised the Persian nation's labor for people's development, and stressed his intentions to cooperate with Iran to boost tech in Venezuela as well as oil production. Also, as part of his Eurasian tour on Monday, Venezuela's president visited the technological park Pardis in Tehran. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro's visit was accompanied by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Agriculture, Communications, Science and Technology, Transport and Tourism of Venezuela, as well as Sorena Satari, the Vice President for Science and Technology of Iran, and Mehdi Safarinia, the head of the Pardis technology part. The Venezuelan delegation also visited Pard's online companies in it, biofermentation in probiotics and pharmaceutical products, and Ariateb Firuz in medical equipment. President Maduro pays an official visit to Iran as part of his Eurasian tour intended to bolster relations with allied nations in the region. Prior stops including Algeria and Turkey. Also this Sunday, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros visited the Mabna Group in Iran, a conglomerate of 70 Iranian companies established as an industrial complex in areas such as oil, electricity, gas, transportation, among others. President Maduro said he was impressed with the scientific and technological advances in areas such as electricity, oil, and transportation, adding that Iran is an example of how to resist and produce for the development of the people. President Maduro thanked Iranian workers and the people for allowing him to learn firsthand about their creative experiences and the great capabilities. Now we move on to other topics. Colombia is living a critical week for the presidential election. In fact, citizens abroad have already begun to vote, as detailed by the National Registry Office. According to figures from the Chancellery, there are 972,764 Colombians registered abroad who will be able to choose between Gustavo Petro and Rodolfo Hernández, the presidential runners. This process begins a week earlier and will conclude on June 19th. According to the National Registrar, Alexander Vega, in New Zealand, there are 1,397 Colombians qualified to vote, and in Austria, 14,988. The high official also said that in Oceania, the voting day is being carried out in complete normality.
In all our consulates, from the Consulate of Auckland in New Zealand, all the keys delivered to satisfaction by the National Registry of the State. We are talking about 67 countries and 250 pots and 1,343 tables from today until next Sunday. June 19th will be able to exercise the right to vote all citizens abroad. We manage record time to deliver of the electoral kits.
The Minister of the Bolivian Presidency, Marianela Prada, confirmed that the government will appeal the 10-year prison sentence imposed on former Senator Yanin Áñez. They will ask for an extension of 15 years. On Friday, a Bolivian court convicted Áñez of violating the Constitution and the dereliction of duty. The sentence, imposed last Friday by a court, will be appealed because to the high government official should correspond to the crimes and their aggravating circumstances. Prada recognized the ruling as a historical one in terms of the violations of the constitutional order. She reiterated and stressed that it was an act of justice, so no one else will ever try to appropriate the sovereignty of the people and proclaim himself the president of the state. Nevertheless, the minister deemed it appropriate for push forward the appeal and have the sentence increased to 15 years.
This is a process fostered through the Ministry of Government and the State Attorney General's office. We want to proceed with the appeal asking for 15 years, which is what we have always demanded, not only because of the crimes that have to do with actions opposed to the Constitution and dereliction of duties, but also because of the aggravating circumstances that exist in this case.
On Sunday, in Paraguay, several political parties and movements made official an agreement for the national consultation. The event was being described as historic. Leaders and referents of the leftist political organizations, such as the Authentic Liberal Party, the Febrista Revolutionary Party, Hagamos, the Encuentro National Party, and Franja Colorada, among others, have made official the unity that seeks a single candidate for the presidential ticket for the elections of 2023. The act was held at the headquarters of the Febrista Revolutionary Party, from where they assured that the agreement will be filed this Tuesday before the Superior Court of Electoral Justice. The signatories of the pact explained that the pact is not between the candidates, but with the parties and the movements. Sebastián Villarejo, pre-candidate for the Patria Querida Party, explained that this is the first time that a national agreement of this nature has been subscribed.
We are open to all candidates because here we have to be clear. Whoever is a candidate outside of the consultation is playing the game of continuism, and that should not happen. The consultation is an election. Therefore, it is the citizenship. The Paraguayan people are all the electoral patron who will go to vote and will choose which is the duo that really represents the dream of a better Paraguay.
The Liberal pre-candidate Efraín Alegre also offered some remarks on pluripersonal candidacies that will aspire to the general elections, under the figure known in that country as Chapa Única.
Estigarribia is part of the consultation. He is an important figure. He is our friend. He is undoubtedly part of the consultation. He is an important representative in this great national understanding within the coalition.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Ecuador, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of that country, the CONAIE, in alliance with various social and trade union groups, mobilized in different points of the national territory. In compliance with the call, the first blockades were registered in 2 of the 14 provinces which have adhered to the call of the Confederation: the Council of Indigenous Evangelical Peoples and Organizations, the National Confederation of Indigenous and Black Peasant Organizations, the National Union of Educators, and the National Anti-Mining Front will also join the day of protest. After being unheard by the National Executive, they are calling for mobilizations and a general strike against the neoliberal policies of the President Guillermo Lasso. In addition, they stress the call to respect collective rights, sources of employment, lower fuel prices, and stop the privatization of strategic public companies, among other demands. After the call for protests for this Monday, Ecuador's President Guillermo Lasso warns that he will not allow the country to be paralyzed.
Ecuadorians, the pandemic forced us to close businesses, schools and college. We could not move around. see our family and friends. Now that we are starting to reactivate and more freely, we cannot allow political groups that seek to destabilize and fish in troubled waters to paralyze the country again.
And the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, stated that the Organization of American States agreed with a plan to turn the gangs into political parties in the country. According to Bukele, this plan was proposed by Raúl Mijango, and the gangs, like the Maras, will have accepted it. The Salvadoran head of state also specified the documents containing the plan were these, whose ultimate goal, after the terrorist groups became guerrillas, was to force peace negotiations to turn them into a political party. This is not the first time Bukele criticized the regional organization. The previously labeled the regional body as the Ministry of Colonies of the United States, assured that Mexico no longer has reason to exist. Members of the House Committee investigating the United States Capitol riot confirmed they have uncovered enough evidence for the Justice Department to consider an unprecedented criminal indictment against former President Donald Trump for seeking to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The committee held its first public hearing last week, with members laying out their case against Trump to show how the defeated head of state relentlessly pushed his false claims the election was rigged, despite multiple advisors telling him otherwise, and how he intensified an extraordinary scheme to overturn Joe Biden's victory. Additional evidence is said to be unveiled this week in hearings that will demonstrate how Trump and his advisors engaged in effort to spread misinformation and pressure the Justice Department to embrace these false claims. Committee members indicated their most important audience might be Attorney General Merrick Garland, who must decide whether his department could and should prosecute Donald Trump.
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup, a brazen attempt, as one rioter put it shortly after January 6th, to overthrow the government. The violence was no accident.
People in Washington, D.C. gathered in front of the Washington Monument in the United States Capitol, demanding the government take action towards common sense of gun reform. As of June the 5th, the Gun Violence Archive has tabulated 246 mass shootings in the U.S. in 2022, claiming the lives of more than 18,000 people. Angry and frustrated after the mass shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York, Americans rallied in more than 400 cities across all 50 states. Many rally participants said that political inaction in Washington, D.C. against the scourge of gun violence is unacceptable.
I'm here because I want more common sense legislation around guns. Our kids are dying in schools, and I used to be a teacher, and we need universal background checks, we need red flag laws, and we need to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. And I do hope that our lawmakers in Washington hear us.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, just in the past few weeks, we've seen several mass shootings. We saw the shooting at this school in Uvalde, Texas. We saw the shooting in Buffalo, and it's a huge problem everywhere. I think some of it is racially motivated, and some of it are school shootings. It's just unacceptable. We really need to come together and march for our lives. I mean, there's always a chance of everyone's in fear now.
And we remain in the United States, where authorities confirmed one person died in a shooting at a Northwest Ohio mall over the weekend, and one person was in custody. A report from the Columbus Police Department said officers were called to the mall at the Total Crossing due to a report of gunfire. Upon arrival, officers found a male victim inside a shoe store who had been shot at least once. This person was pronounced dead shortly after. Another person, believed to be the suspect, was taken into custody. Police also said the shooting appeared to be an isolated incident inside one store, and the motive wasn't immediately apparent. United Nations High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet announced on Monday she will not be seeking a second term for personal reasons. The former Chilean president, who will wrap up her 4-year mandate at the end of August, had remained silent this far about whether she will seek to stay on for a second term.
Second term. After my mandate expires on the 31st of August of this year. Of course, from now on, I'll continue working as hardly as I should. I mean, I'm going to discharge all my responsibilities, and as I've always done.
Now we move on to other topics. Strong rain, winds and flash floods hit northern and central Turkey on Monday, after a weekend of flooding that killed at least 4 people. Torrential rains and hailstorms swept through the north and center at the weekend, causing floods that killed 3 people near Ankara and another in the central province of Karaman. Bad weather warnings were in place in 42 towns and cities in the north and center, including the capital Ankara. Schools were closed in the capital and the central town of Cemurek. In 2021, around 100 people died in violent weather events in Turkey, including flash floods, wildfires and droughts. The disasters pushed climate change up to the political agenda, especially among younger voters. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. The spokesperson for the Burkinabe government, Lionel Bigdo, attributed to jihadists an attack in the northeast region with a potentially heavy death toll, while he confirmed another attack in Alga killed at least 6 people this weekend. During an address on national television, the government official urged the public to remain calm.
During the night of 11 to 12 November, armed individuals committed further despicable acts in this locality of Burkina Faso, causing a massive displacement of the population towards the town of Dori, 47 kilometers from Seitenga. It must be said that the report that has been circulated on social networks so far, which speak of more than 100 people killed, is not yet confirmed. We hope it is not necessarily accurate, because at the time of writing, the army is still doing a sweep.
On Friday night, the leader of Mali's military junta set up a team to write a new constitution. The first draft should be ready in 2 months. The team will be able to consult all political parties and the civil society, including religious organizations and the traditional authorities. This decision comes just days after the junta announced on June 6 it will stay in power for 2 additional years before organizing democratic elections in March 2024. Mali is facing sanctions from its regional partners of the ECOWAS for delaying an election that should have been held late February this year. ECOWAS regret the 24-month timetable. They had given Bamako 16 months maximum to transfer power to a civilian entity in order to lift the sanctions. Negotiations continue, though. Now we move on to other topics. Russian troops are now in control of most of Severodonetsk, the epicenter of the conflict in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. According to Sherry Haidai, the governor of Luhansk region, the most active areas of fighting were Severodonetsk, Popasna, and the area of Siversky Donetsk River. He also estimated that as many as 500 civilians are hiding in underground bomb shelters at the Azov plant, including 40 children who denounced being under heavy shelling by Ukrainian artillery. The governor emphasized that the priority is to evacuate the civilians that remains in the industrial area and the chemical plant. In Ukraine, at least 1 person is reported dead after a new attack by Ukrainian forces in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic. The incident took place on Sunday in the Kirkovsk district in the self-proclaimed republic. According to the city's mayor, Alexei Kulemzin, the body of the mortal victim is that of a 50-year-old man who is still unidentified. The incident also left around 5 people wounded, all of whom are receiving medical care. According to the Republican delegation to the Joint Ceasefire Control and Coordination Center, more than 50 strikes from Ukrainian artillery have been registered in Donetsk. And the Greek island of Astypalia became the new venue and the groundbreaking multi-day format for the Red Bull Art of Motion 2022. 16 athletes from all corners of the world traveled to Astypalia looking to showcase their most daring runs and tricks over obstacles across 3 days of stimulating competition. The world's best free runners put on a gravity-defying show for fans, including rooftop jumps, insane flips, and graceful fluidity, with the first unique challenge called the Exploration Challenge. In the final live challenge event, the athletes had just 3 attempts to hit their best trick in under 10 seconds, which then were judged on creativity, difficulty, flow, execution, and overall performance.
It feels amazing once again. It feels very much like an out-of-body experience, though. I'm not like fully present right now, but I feel great. The greatest thrill was actually stomping the run at the end. After I fell, I tried not to let it get to me, so just made sure to like breathe and act like it didn't happen. So this week has been one of the most incredible weeks of my life. Just being out here in Astypalia, getting to just create with Red Bull and the best free runners in the world. I couldn't be more stoked.
I can't believe it. It's just crazy. Like, I used to watch this when I was like 11, 12, 13, like with all my friends when I just started parkour, and it's crazy to be in this position now. Like, I can't believe it. Yeah. When we were doing the 60-second videos on the second day, that was awesome. I was just felt like training, and I happened to come into this, so like, yeah, crazy.
TeleSUR expands its signal with new satellite parameters. Since more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are being heard in other farther away nations. These parameters are in place since June the 1st in Latin America and the Caribbean, both in English and in Spanish, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in Europe, the Middle East and Africa. This new multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. So we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.